Good morning. This is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and we're here for an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. So, after yesterday's exciting video with the dachshund, which didn't go as planned really, but he was a very cute boy, I want to talk today about my second experience with that dachshund yesterday, which is continuing in our series about dog lessons or things that we learn from dogs. And that is this idea of compassion. And when we talked about altruism and sharing in dogs, we touched on compassion, but these qualities are distinct. And when we list great things about a person, they come off as separate things. Like, we have words for this because they mean slightly different things. So compassion is an ability to step into the feelings of another. And it can be confused with sympathy, and it can be confused with pity. But what compassion is more like is empathy, like being able to understand the feelings in the moment of another being. And dogs are masters of that. And we touched on this before when I talked about my client who had back problems, and this little dog she had always laid right in the right spot and helped her when she was feeling bad. And so yesterday, that little dachshund, Peanut, lost his brother, Aiden, about 2 weeks ago. And he's been lonely being a single dog. I mean, as much as his people are home due to COVID and they're spending time with him, and he's getting lots of together time because they miss the other dog too, he has not had dog time until he spent a day with Tristan yesterday. And for instance, the people said that he has not been wanting to go for walks. He just lays down. It's very lackluster. Now, the other dog was the one that was sort of the leader in that relationship. And Tristan has no trouble being the boss because he's a Corgi. And he just trotted along with me when we went for a walk, and he's sniffing, and I'm not really paying too much attention, and he's darting from one end to the other of the leash. But Peanut was so happy to have somebody to follow, somebody trekking out ahead to make sure things were okay. And he's just trotting along, not too fast, not too enthusiastic, peeing where he wants, sniffing where he wants, but he made it all the way around a pretty big block, which was his first actual walk since he lost his brother. And that's just the beginning. I mean, that's not necessarily evidence of compassion, but it's evidence of the relationship between these two dogs. And there were plenty of times we were doing work in the yard, and the dogs were on this little deck together, maybe 12 by 12. And Peanut had his bed, and he'd had a treatment, so he was tending to want to sleep. But many was the time when Tristan was sitting at the gate sort of guarding, barking at the cats and the other dogs for Peanut so he could sleep. And then there were plenty of times when they were both sort of resting next to each other. And when Peanut's person came on the deck and laid on the ground, there because she was exhausted, he went over and he's licking her face, and Tristan is too. But then the interesting thing happened. Instead of licking the person, Tristan started licking Peanut, which he does all the time. He loves Peanut. They're really good friends. And Tristan lost Comet. He knows what it's like to lose your fellow dog member of the household, and really Tristan has not been the same dog since he has had to live without Comet. And Peanut will be different too. But just letting the two dogs spend time together yesterday was so important. And it was just like this whole kind of unfolding of events that led to the fact that they were on the deck together for like 6 hours. There was some yard work going on, and then there was some management issues with the yard work, and then there was a third hand, and then, and there was a timing issue. So the dogs spent the whole day together. And I think that was really good for Peanut to have some companionship. And of course, we've seen lots of examples of compassion with dogs and people. Everybody that has a therapy dog has seen at least one, if not hundreds, of amazing examples where a dog walks up to a person that they don't know, and they can read that person's energy, and they can approach them in a way that the person can be reached in a way that people haven't been able to reach that person. And we've all seen, I think by now, if not, you can go to my website and look at it, the amazing kind of cartoon. It's really kind of an illustrated story of my dog Comet and this soldier veteran Dick, which I post every Veterans Day in the fall. And Comet, that guy was grumpy. He was diagnosed with mental health problems. He was given a ton of drugs, which he probably didn't need. He spent his whole life in different institutions. He had seen some of the worst battles in World War II. And Comet just loved that guy. I mean, he just pulled at his leash and tore across the room and put his paws on that guy's bed. And he had a way of... Oh, sorry about that little interruption. Some person thinks they're calling me. But Comet had his way of reaching that person with his doggy compassion in a way that no other people could. Now, to his credit and mine, I mean, I also had a lot of compassion for that guy. There's a certain kind of student and patient I've had in my life that I can't summarize easily. It's not always the bad kid. It's not always the struggling kid. It's often somebody who, like Dick, who's kind of shut down, but has a lot to say and has not been easily reached by other people. I mean, I'm good with those kind of horses, I'm good with those kind of people, and I'm good with those kind of students. And I allowed that situation to occur with Comet. But dogs exhibit amazing compassion. My friend Karen, she's got little Wilbur. If you guys follow any Corgi people on Facebook, she does dog dancing, and little Wilbur has been in training to become a therapy dog, and he is just amazing with the elderly. I mean, he's a bouncy puppy, but she puts him on somebody's lap in a wheelchair, and he just settles in there and gets the snuggles, and he's not like overly licking or pawing or anything. He's just really appropriate with the people in the nursing home. So, you know, dogs just have an amazing, compassionate quality that we should learn from. I had a friend call me today, and she's furious at a family member. They've been having this ongoing feud. They don't live together. They're like sisters or, you know, daughter, relative kind of thing like that. And she's just so mad at this relative that she cannot find compassion for what's going on with them that's causing them to act in a way that she sees as bad, and vice versa. But compassion can get us so far in life. If you can see the other person's side for even a second, that doesn't mean you have to forgive them or condone their behavior or agree with their behavior. But if you can exhibit compassion for their situation, you can get through it with them, and you'll both be better on the other side. I had a woman at a horse clinic I was doing, and I said something about Tellington T-Touch being more powerful in some specific way than lots of natural horseman techniques. Just like that. Simple. It just rubbed this lady the wrong way, and she was mad. And at the lunch break, she pinned me against my truck by my shoulders and had her nose this far from my face and was yelling at me. And thank God for my training and background, because I could have been scared because she was really fired up, and who knows what she was having a little drink of at her lunch break. Second of all, if I didn't have the knowledge of how to deal with horses in this situation, I wouldn't have been able to deal with this person. But what I did, which in hindsight was compassionate, was I kept saying to her, I appreciate what you're feeling. I understand how you felt this way. I see where this was how you felt it. And she couldn't resist. It's like doing that push hands in Tai Chi where you have somebody try to resist you, and as long as you keep moving, you just go on this journey together. And I was doing that verbally and mentally with her, and she finally just relaxed in front of me. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna give you your money back for the clinic. And she's like, well, I didn't pay for it, my student did. And I said, you guys are both getting this clinic for free. I will offer to do an extra 2 hours at the end of the clinic with the horse that you brought, or any other horse that's here that you'd like me to work with. And, you know, I'd like to have a dialogue with you and get your input about how this is working. Well, I gave the money back to the two people. The lady left. I still did the extra work with the horse to help the owner. And that was the end of it. I never heard from her again. But in that moment, I mean, that was a huge lesson for her, to see that somebody could feel her anger and her distraughtness and be able to meet that and not push against it. And that is a huge gift. And dogs teach us that all the time. Even when dogs are grumpy, like when Tristan's scolding the baby Corgi, he runs up and he barks him up, and rarely do we see a dog keep insisting when another dog has backed down. Rarely. I mean, we do see it, but it's unusual, just like we have bad people. So, you know, the learned compassion from dogs, especially now. You know, there's so much going on. If you follow astrology, there's like a bazillion planets in retrograde, and that puts attention on us. The COVID virus and the being locked up in your house puts attention on us. The having to go back to work, like, you know, maybe you're a teacher or you run a childcare center or you work with a lot of people that might not be very good at following the rules, and you're nervous to go back to work. I mean, there's a lot of stress. Just going to the grocery store is like so stressful now. And it's going to be that way no matter where you live. I mean, I'm sure that people who live in places where they think everything's fine and they're acting like nothing's wrong, I think in the back of their mind, they're still thinking, geez, I hope I don't get this. So there's a lot of anxiety out there. I mean, there's tons of really horrendous crimes going on right now from people that just can't hold it together anymore. And there was a very upsetting thing that I saw this morning about this woman in New York City freaking out and calling the police because some person asked her to put her dog on a leash in an area where dogs were supposed to be leashed. Well, there's many upsetting things about this incident, which you'll see on the news if you haven't. But the worst for me was watching that poor dog. It was like a medium-sized golden doodle. She had him by the collar. She was strangling him. He's trying to climb up her legs to get some pressure off his neck. His eyes are bugging out. It's very upsetting. And on the third news channel I got to, I found out that the rescue agency she got the dog from saw the video and took the dog back. So the dog is safe and happy and cared for. But boy, I was freaking out. It was hard for me to find compassion for that lady. And all I could think was, who do I know in New York City who's a T-Touch practitioner who I can get to work with this woman to help that dog, because this dog cannot live like this with this person. So even in the most horrible circumstances, we have to have compassion. And thank God, I mean, the people at that rescue probably were thinking two things. One, we have to get the dog back. And second of all, this woman is in no shape to be taking care of a dog when she's this reactive. And they're right about that. So have compassion. Learn compassion from your dogs. Think about how other people are feeling around you. Even if you're going in the grocery store without a mask or gloves, la-di-da, in your state, remember that the other people who have a mask on, as one of our politicians said the other day, they may have a kid at home undergoing cancer treatment and need that mask. So don't belittle people that are different from you. And dogs teach us that, right? Biscuit, he says, I love my friend Peanut. Peanut's at the beach. We wish we were there too. So yeah, Danny says she saw that. That woman was dragging the dog around, yeah, and strangling him. It was awful. Any dog lover, I haven't even been on Facebook today, but any dog lover would have been reacting. And I was so lucky to find out that the dog was taken back to a shelter. I mean, that person was not in a situation to be a pet person. And let's face it, I asked a couple of my friends with pets. I've been in New York a lot with my dogs. I mean, a lot. I have spent weeks at a time in New York with my dogs and my rabbits. Would I let them off a leash in Central Park? Not for a second. And I have herding dogs that don't leave my side for 5 inches. But anything could happen. A dog could run out and, you know, Central Park's not that wide. I mean, it is, but a bigger dog could run out to a street and there'd be no way that a car wouldn't hit him. I mean, who lets a dog off a leash in New York City? Nobody. So there's that. All right. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi. Everybody have a great day. It's going to start to really heat up around here. I'm going to have to break out the air conditioner. Thanks for joining us.